Bonjour tout le monde, I'm Cassie, your French tutor so you can discover France the French way. And as I want to show you all the positive aspects of French culture, why not put yourself into a Frenchie's shoes? I was an expat for about 10 years and it completely changed the way I perceived France. Today I want to talk about the positive aspects, but of course if you are interested in the negative aspects, let me know in the comments. Alors t'es prêt? On y va. You may recognize my kitchen here, especially if you've seen last week's video, but I wanted to show you something quite important to us French people. So, as I'm pretty sure any Frenchie that goes abroad for a tiny bit of time, the first thing we miss is food. So you have these French people, they will miss cheese, definitely not me. Others will miss the viennoiserie, les croissants, les pains au chocolat, etc. Others will miss the bread, anything, or just products, you know, that we're used to eat or drink since we're little children. And yeah, but what I missed most was the variety of products here. And what I wanted to show you was that. See all this? I do not buy it in supermarkets or not even at the market. I actually buy it straight from a local farmer, a lovely woman. I'm able to talk with her every week when she brings all the vegetables and stuff. So they're super fresh, super organic, and that's something I've never seen in other countries. I've seen farmer markets, yes, but it wasn't that fresh and local, and you couldn't really get to know the person who produces your food. But food in general is something so important in French culture. I'm not talking about bread and bakeries because that would be the topic of a whole other video, and this one I'm not even asking you because I'm telling you it will happen. The meal is a moment for social gathering. It's a moment that you share with your loved ones. That's why we take more time. For example, a lunch break in France will be more than an hour, whereas in the Netherlands, I never had more than 30 minutes to eat, which was not enough. And when I was working with like Spanish people, Italian people, trust me, we took more time than that. Because it is so important, that means that you can talk about it with other people here. It is very, very common to talk about food, to share recipes, to talk about the restaurants you've tried, the restaurants you want to discover, to give advice, all that. It is part of the social life. This farmers group, our neighbors told us about it. So it is part of the conversation. Also in supermarkets or anywhere else, you will find way more choice. In the Netherlands, for example, when you wanted a courgette, a zucchini, you have like one type of courgette. Here in France, plenty. Seriously. Let me show you. And that means that even outside of Paris, you will have a big variety of different restaurants. So you can discover food from anywhere, everywhere, and it is an art here to cook. We have a saying that is, on vit pour manger, on ne mange pas pour vivre. I think that sums it all. Aren't we cozy in here? So I'm bringing you to that kind of restaurant setup because I want to talk about social interactions, and that's something I really missed from France, the way people interact. So I know it is because I have the codes of the culture. I mean, it is my home country, so I understand how people think and how they behave, but I truly missed it. One thing, French people tend to be extremely open in terms of idea, what they think, what they feel. So I know we are not striking you as the most open-minded persons, and I get it. But here happens that I meet people that I've never met before. Really, I meet them first time. And they talk about what they think, their desires in life, maybe their motivation, their projects, whatever, even their fears or things that could be pretty intimate. And that's how I think you get closer to, well, these people. You create a bond, a real bond. And I remember in Australia, I met this German girl. I cannot recall her name, I'm sorry for that. But she told me that she was only hanging out with French people. I was really surprised, and that was the first time I've heard something positive about French people. I mostly heard like hate and negative stuff, so I was really surprised. And she told me, it is harder to become friend, like real friend with a French person, but once you are, you know that the bond is super strong. You know that they're gonna tell their mind, you know that they're gonna share what they truly think, and they'll be more open and more true to themselves and to the friendship. And she loved it. And I love that she said that. And even though small talk does exist in France, we call that papoter. I think that would be the best translation for chit-chat. The papotage, papoter. Even though it does exist, we tend to go faster to deeper subjects. I mean, you probably know that French people love to debate. That's part of it. Another aspect is that I get the social codes. So I will less likely be awkward with other people.
By far, the worst thing about la BISE is when you go out for drinks with your friends. Before you can actually drink a drink, you have to say hello to all of them individually. Ah, salut, tu vas bien? Salut, tu vas bien? Salut, tu vas bien?
I know how to be polite because politeness depends on the culture. What is polite for one culture may not be polite for another. And then you have awkwardness, misunderstanding. It is quite relaxing to already have that handle. You know how that works. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
For girls, it's okay, because they just give everyone kisses.
But it's not my choice.
But for guys, it's different, because we kiss the girls, but sometimes we also have to kiss the guys.
Ça va, Robert?
Before moving to Paris, my face had never touched another man's face.
So it is something very interesting when you move to another country, when you discover another culture. In the long term, it can be quite tiring, and that was a bit for me. And let me give you an example that I give to all my students. Here in France, you need to say bonjour. Even for people working in services, like you go to a boulangerie, you go to a supermarket, you're talking to an employee, you have to say bonjour. It shows basic politeness. If you don't say that, they will very, very likely be rude to you. To me, that is normal because I grew up in that culture. I also know what topic to avoid. For example, talking about politics with someone I just met maybe is not the best idea. Same for religion and money. But it will also be easier for me to guess, if I can start talking about it or not, and when. That is, because I'm coming home, so I'm way more familiar with all that. Another thing that I truly missed while being abroad was the richness of French cultural scene. So I'm talking about cinemas, I'm talking about humor, like stand-up comedians. I love them, and I love them more in French because as it is my mother tongue and I'm well aware of, how French society works, it hits better, it hits differently. So I'm not saying that the cultural scene was bad abroad, definitely not, but I kind of miss the French one. Also in terms of cinemas, in terms of events, maybe festivals, there are so many in France. Keep in mind that culture has a specific status in France. We call that l'exception culturelle française. It means that culture is actually financed by the government, part of it. For example, for movies, did you know that any tickets that you buy in theaters will finance French movies? So even if you're in France and you go watch an American movie, a tax will be taken from that, and then it will finance like French projects, maybe smaller movies, with a lower budget. And I truly love the importance of culture in France. Another example, and when I could, I actually came back for that, is La Fête de la Musique, every 21st of June. La Fête de la Musique, it's been a thing for decades, and basically I've only celebrated in bigger cities, let's say, mostly Paris. I will discover it in Nantes this year. But it is really fun because you have a lot of music, you have a lot of happenings in the city, like really in the streets of the city. Mostly city centers, of course. So it's like a big party. And I enjoy it so much. So you can discover different styles, you can discover like bands you would have never heard about. I truly recommend. And the weather is amazing. And if you want to discover French movies while learning and studying the language, there is a link in description to Lingopie, which is an app I use for mostly Japanese, a bit of Spanish too, but I love it, highly recommend it, so let's go. Full disclosure here, it is an affiliate link, that means that it actually supports my work and the channel. Merci. Alright, for the next one, you know what, I'm walking. I'm trying to walk slowly so you're not shaking too much, but I'm walking, so you will be shaking a bit. So another thing that I really miss from France, and you know what, I did not realize how much I loved it before I went abroad, it was how beautiful France is. So, you know, for the occasion, I'm outside. See, that's for fishermen. That's cool. I didn't know that existed before coming to that region. Okay, maybe that would be more striking with like a beautiful sun, but not today. So I've been to several countries actually that were beautiful. I think every country has like beautiful landscape and something to offer. But before leaving France, before going to Australia, which is stunning, like Australia, I think we all agree, except that half of the animals are trying to kill you. It is absolutely stunning. I mean, I will never forget Fraser Islands, for example. That was so beautiful. But we also have wonders in France. We have mountains, we have the ocean, the Mediterranean Sea. Just that is incredible, but the countryside is stunning as well. It's like so, I don't know, picturesque. But before, I kind of took it for granted, and that's the issue. That's why it is good to travel a bit, because then when you come home you appreciate things more. So we pretty much have all kind of landscapes, all kind of climates as well, though we have the 4 seasons everywhere in France, like the part in Europe. But yeah, in the south that would be extremely warm, sunny, meaning that the plants, the trees, they'd be like from all around the Mediterranean. The food as well is different. And then up north it is a bit colder, but I kind of love it. Here, for example, you will never have extremely hot summers, but the winters won't be too cold either. So I really love that, like mild temperature. So you can have a bit of everything depending on the vacations you want. But other than the landscapes, the cities, they're beautiful as well. I grew up around Paris, but there is not only Paris in France. I know, for French people looking, there is not only Paris. And I mean, now I live in another city, another big city actually. But when you go to the city center, you can feel the history of the city. Incredible. And I love to see the different types of architecture, because it's like reading a history book. You see the different time periods. You can see sometimes, like, for example, impacts from bullets, from things like that. So you know something happened there. So rich, so interesting, love it. But now people are starting to stare at me. So I'm gonna stop. I also have a train to catch, so let's go. But first... And last point, but definitely not least, is the fact that now I get to use my mother tongue on a daily basis. So I remember that clip from the character of Gloria in Modern Family saying, "You don't know how smart I am in Spanish," which is her mother tongue.
Do you even know how smart I am in Spanish? Of course you don't. For once, it would be nice to speak to someone in my own language, in my own home.
So I'm not saying that, you know, I'm glad to speak French in particular, but yeah, after 10 years speaking another language on a daily basis, though my partner is French, so at home we speak French together, but still with colleagues or in social gatherings, in social environments, I had to speak a language that I've learned. And even though I consider myself fluent in English, I do not master every intricacies of the language. So speaking French makes me be myself again. You know, we say that depending on the language that we speak, the personality changes. And I agree, I'm way more social in Spanish, for example. I'm a bit sassier in French. I'm pretty sure that won't surprise anyone. So getting to speak French, I feel smarter, I feel funnier, I feel that I can express everything. Though learning these languages throughout the years, and I keep learning because I love that, it broadens my perspectives, it gives me another idea, it opens my mind, and also it gives me richer vocabulary, because to express my ideas, I can actually pick, from another language. So maybe from English, maybe from Spanish. I love that perspective. Even if you spend years learning another language, it feels good, to go back to what you learned as a kid, what you mastered already, and also what you grew up with. Okay, so now you know what I missed, and I'm pretty sure other French expats miss when they go abroad. But now it is your turn. Tell me what you would miss from your home country, maybe the day you will come to France. And if you want to know more about what my about 10 years abroad taught me in terms of language learning, I advise you to watch this video next. À la semaine prochaine. Salut!